Hopeful Beginnings is a 501c3 dedicated to perinatal mental health and adoption services. We believe in empowering women and families to build nurturing homes for children. The Hopeful Beginnings podcast tells the stories of pregnancy, birth, and parenthood through the eyes of professionals who serve families in our Chicagoland community. Find out more at hopefulbeginning.org. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hopeful Beginnings podcast. Hopeful Beginnings is a 501c3 dedicated to perinatal mental health and adoption services. We believe that by empowering women and families, that we can create nurturing homes for children. Today, I am so lucky to be sharing some time with Giovanna Otavalo, who is a full spectrum doula and doula trainer throughout Chicagoland. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that introduction, Giovanna?
Thanks for having me. No, I think you've said it well.
Okay, great. So something that I love to talk about with doulas is why on earth did you get into doula work? It's very niche, right?
It is. And thank you for the question. I absolutely love sharing my story. I spent 20 years in the education industry, and so I was a little bit later in life when I started my family. And in doing so, I did all the research. I watched the movies, I read the books, and I learned about doulas. And I thought, yes, if I was going to embark in something new, like running a marathon for the first time, I would hire a running coach. Why wouldn't I hire a birthing coach for my experience? So I was really fortunate to find a doula I connected well with. And she was an integral part of my birth story and was able to help me feel really heard and empowered to ask questions in my birthing experience. And so she inspired me to pursue birth work. And then my son, my background's early childhood education, so I was really well prepared for the parenting portion.
As much as you can be, right?
Right. In my naive mind, I thought I was really prepared. And then he became my greatest teacher because he had a lot of complications. We had some breastfeeding challenges. And I felt like I really had to advocate for myself over and over in those early weeks and months, seeking second, third, and even fifth opinions or guidance from professionals. And so my eyes were really open to the gap in care, not just for birthing folks, but for new parents in those early weeks, and that pediatricians are amazing at what they do, but they don't provide all the answers and all the support. And so about 4 months after my son was born, I took my birth doula training and shortly after my postpartum doula training because I really felt like if as prepared as I felt I was, I still needed another layer of support. How many other families feel that same way?
Right. And I often feel like when we feel we're most prepared, that's when life teaches us the lesson of you can never truly be prepared to raise another human, right? So that's so interesting, like that your own experience really drove your passion for this work. How would you say that your approach or your doula care has evolved from that first training and experience that where maybe you were pulling out of, your own wants and desires has come to now? How many births have you been at?
A little over 300 births and a little over 300 postpartum families as well.
Wow. So how has that changed? 300 babies have taught you a lot of lessons. Can you share some of those lessons with us?
For sure. And I'll start with even a birth plan. When I went into my own pregnancy, I knew exactly the kind of birth I wanted to have. I knew exactly what kind of pain management I wanted to have or wanted to avoid. And then my labor taught me that, again, your body is experiencing something brand new for the very first time, and you might change your mind along the way.
And that's okay.
And that's 100% okay. And same with parenting. I had a view for how I was going to feed my baby, where my baby was going to sleep, all of those things. And then his needs really dictated what we needed to do from a decision standpoint. And so that was he was my first lesson that being adaptable and being willing to pivot along the journey is really important, and giving yourself grace in those pivots. And so now 300 families later, I feel like that's what I remind families often is, yes, we can prepare. Yes, we can plan. I can help educate you on your choices. But ultimately, once you're in labor, your body and you will determine what feels right in the moment, and trusting your intuition. And on the parenting side, I joke that I read all the books, but my baby didn't.
That's a good one.
So he was going to do what he needed to do. And so on the parenting side, that yes, we can have a vision for how parenting's going to go, but our little human also has a voice, and they will often communicate what they need from us.
I think that that's such a special role, right? To be in a family's life of really validating, right? That it's okay to not have the answer. Can you, so doulas, I feel like the awareness of doulas and what a doula is growing, but it's not where it should be. Can you talk to the person or the community member who might not know why should someone have a doula? If they want to have their baby born at a hospital, what is the doula's role in that birth?
Great question. And I think it goes back to take a step back, the misconception that doulas are only for this kind of birth, right? Doulas are only for unmedicated, crunchy home births or with midwives, right? And we certainly can support those families, but really a doula is there to support any person who is growing their family, regardless of where they're going to deliver, regardless of pain management, wishes. We are here to support the family in having empowered decision-making, in helping them advocate and ask the questions for themselves. We are continuous support through pregnancy, early labor, and birth. You can have an amazing staff of nurses, OBs, or midwives, but they're also taking care of other patients.
Right.
And they're in and out of the room. We as doulas are that continuous care. We walk in to the room and we join you until you meet your baby, whether that's 2 hours from the time we arrive or that's 2 days from the time we arrive. We're here to help be that constant for you. And we will have known you in advance. We will get to know your wishes, your preferences, even things like, I joke that somebody's comfort measures might be somebody else's pet peeves.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Or people's likes are so random.
Yeah.
I know I've had a client who was, she gave birth in a hospital, definitely not a crunchy mom, but her request was, I need Coca-Cola to take any pills. And that's so random. It's not something that a hospital would usually support. But as her doula, I was more than happy to throw that in my bag, right?
Yeah.
So I always say that it's almost even more important to have a doula in a hospital setting because, like you said, nurses are amazing people, but they're taking care of more than one patient.
For sure.
And in your experience, I know in my experience, is hospitals move pretty quickly in birth, correct?
They can, yeah. And there's protocols and there's expectations and there's the way that they like to operate. And that's great. And in medical emergencies, we want them to be super efficient and we want them to move very quickly. But not all birthing experiences require fast-moving interventions. So it's important for families to be able to take a step back and ask the questions so that they understand. So even if it is an emergency and it does need to move fast, what's happening? Am I okay? Is my baby okay? There's always a moment to just give a quick nod. Yes, you're okay. You're in good hands. Even in those dire moments, to have a face that they know and recognize in the room when everything's happening quickly. A lot of time in those moments, I just say, look at me.
Yeah.
Let's focus on breath. You're in the right hands. You're in the right place. Keep breathing. You're your baby's breath right now. So let's keep breathing. And that alone can be so comforting in those higher stress situations.
And so validating, right? So for you, you've been doing this work. and part of so many women's birth experiences. How has it affected you as a person, as a woman, as a birthing person?
I love the question. So I feel like it has made me so much more open to understanding that everyone walks a path that I don't know before I ever meet them, right? I really believe in trauma-informed care. So assuming that someone has experienced something hard at some point in their life, their statistics tell us that someone has experienced a loss, someone has experienced some level of trauma. So I've learned to be really open with my questions, be really supportive. Whatever their wishes are, they're valid and they're theirs. How do I help support them in that? I feel like I walk the earth with more openness and compassion. If someone's cranky at the grocery store checkout line, the me before doing this work 15 years ago might have, been grumpy
Might have been
right
a little
back.
judgy, right?
Yeah. And now I'm like, oh, they must be having a hard day. Just remembering that somebody has walked a whole life before their interaction with me.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And when I think about trauma, it's really, there is not a human being on this earth that hasn't had some type of trauma. And things that might not be traumatic for me or for you might be deeply troubling and traumatic for another person. What would you like your clients, your birthing individuals to take out of a birth experience as you support them and, that journey and, when their baby is growing up? What do you want them to look back and remember or feel?
A phrase that I use often is I want them to be an active participant in their birth.
I love that.
That birth didn't happen to them, decisions weren't made for them, but they got to make the decisions, even in the hard, that they got to say, yes, I understand, yes, I agree, that they felt like their choices were heard, even in the hard. So being an active participant, I think, is really important. And even in parenting, right? You go to a pediatrician's office and a doctor says, okay, this is what we're doing today. Okay, and maybe your plan is to go along with it, but it's okay to say, can you tell me more? What can I expect? What are the pros and cons of this? It's okay to ask those questions and be involved in the decision-making for yourself and for your family.
That's such a beautiful empowerment message, right? That you have choices. And I think a lot of clients I know that I work with, and I'm sure that you work with, it might be the first time, the first professional that's giving them a choice of what is being done to them. So I know here in Illinois, we're really lucky that doulas are now covered by Medicaid, which opens up a whole new population to receive doula services, quality services that, previously I know, or I've heard the stereotype was the crunchy rich mom,
Right.
who's able to afford the support. How do you feel it's going to change the birthing landscape?
I love this. At my most recent training that I led, somebody asked this question of how do I, if I want to go into this work to be an advocate, how do I advocate in those hard circumstances? And I think research shows that just by having continuous support, someone's birthing experience improves.
That's amazing.
Being physically present, by having someone who is your uninterrupted companion in birth, your birthing experience is improved for the better.
And I think a lot of us who have partners can take for granted that there are many, many individuals who without a doula might go through birth alone.
Yeah. And even that's the other piece. People believe that I have a supportive partner, so we don't need a doula. Doulas are for the entire family. So in many times, I'm there also to give the partner a break. I'm there to give the partner coaching and guidance on comfort measures or, hey, partner, I've been here for 12 hours and I haven't seen you take a sip of water. Go refill your water bottle.
Right.
I see how stressed you are about all the text messages you're getting from family while your birthing person, your partner, is taking a snooze right now. Why don't you step out of the room, get some fresh air, reply to the family text messages, take a quick walk. If anything changes, I will let you know. So we're there for the whole family. So I think even if with the most supportive partners, both people could use an extra set of hands.
That's a really great point. And often I think the partner might feel selfish, right? They're not giving birth, so they have to be on, the whole time.
And in solidarity, if you can't eat, I can't eat. If you can't drink, I can't drink. But I use a lot of analogies with my families, but I say that the birthing person might be the vessel that is bringing this baby into the world, but their partner is the lighthouse.
I love that.
And so if the lighthouse is looking a little queasy and scared and low energy, the vessel might feel like they don't have quite the strength, right? But if the lighthouse can take 5 minutes to step out, get a fresh cup of coffee, get some fresh air, maybe use the bathroom, comes back rejuvenated, they can cheer their person on a little bit stronger.
That's so important. That's so important and so validating, right? So when I introduced you, you said you're a full spectrum doula. Can you talk a little bit, what does that mean?
For sure. So many training organizations train doulas to support either birth or postpartum. Full spectrum doulas are often referred to those of us who are trained to support birth and postpartum. But to take it a step further, the training that I specifically train for really teaches our team members to be prepared for the entire lifespan of growing a family. So that includes fertility, birth, loss, bereavement, birth, and the postpartum period. So truly, at any point in your family growing journey.
That's amazing. I know one of the discussions we had when we first met was I would really love to see some of our adoptive families, be supported by doulas, because while the birthing experience isn't there, definitely that newness of the postpartum, it's incredibly complicated to navigate meeting this little child for the first time and then not having any instructions on how to care for them and suddenly being sleep deprived. It can be so overwhelming.
For sure. And there's also, for families who've experienced fertility journey, challenges, previous losses, there is even another layer of complexity too, of feeling the grief of the loss, feeling the grief of how hard becoming parents is, and now coupling that with the joy of having a new baby. It's hard, and some people feel that guilt of, why am I still focused on that when I'm supposed to be feeling joy? So in the instances where I've supported surrogate families, adoptive families, the reminder that it's okay.
Right.
And even with our partners, we don't always fall in love at first sight. That sometimes there is that warming period, the getting to know each other period before you're deeply in love. We can't expect that just because we meet this baby today, that we're going to be head over heels and know everything about them. There is that learning each other period, and that's okay. And I'm here to scaffold that learning. I'm here to help shorten the learning curve. They will figure it out. They will learn the baby's cries or needs. But if I can help shorten that period a little bit, then it helps their transition into parenthood feel a little bit more supported.
Yeah. It's so hard, and every baby's different, right? Because sometimes I know as parents too, for us who have multiple children, there is that pressure to say, oh, well, I've done this before. I should know what to do. And yet second baby, third baby, fourth baby might be completely different than first baby.
For sure.
What role? So a service we offer at Hopeful Beginnings is perinatal mental health. We offer those therapy services for moms, parents, families who are navigating postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, or maybe just not knowing where to grasp or where their lighthouse is or what their name is after baby arrives or even before baby arrives. What role can a doula have in helping individuals navigate postpartum depression?
Thank you for bringing that up. I personally was in denial with my own PMAD story. My partner brought it to my attention that I was not looking like myself, acting like myself, being myself for a long time. And I was in denial that I had any mental health challenges. I really felt like, isn't every mom struggling? Isn't every mom tired? Isn't every mom short-fused in those early weeks? I think we as doulas, because we are intimately involved in the family's journey, we get to meet them prenatally. Sometimes we're present at birth, but especially for the postpartum doulas, we are in that family space day in and day out. Sometimes we are the person that can bring to their attention, like, hey, I'm noticing this change. I'm noticing this shift. If I'm here to help give you some relief so that you can sleep, I'm still noticing that you're up all night. Here are some of the things that I'm picking up. Can I help connect you with someone in a very gentle way and not in a non-judgmental way? We fail our moms in those early weeks. You know, in pregnancy, we're seeing our providers weekly.
Right.
In those final weeks. And then after the baby's born, maybe we have a telehealth visit at 2 weeks, and then we're not seeing someone until 6 weeks. That's 6 weeks. That is a long time for someone who is really deeply struggling. But as postpartum doulas, we're usually there. We're in their homes. We're seeing the decline. We're seeing someone's, light in their eyes fading. So we can bring it to their attention. We can be the connector for them. We can support the partner in having those tough conversations. Even recognizing that the partner may be struggling with something. So much of the focus is just on the birthing person and not the partner.
Yeah, it's I think also it's a different dynamic, right? When your doula, gently brings up those little things they're noticing rather than a family member. Because they're just such complicated times after baby arrives that having another set of eyes, another pair of hands, who wouldn't want that?
For sure.
So Giovanna, thank you so much for sharing this conversation today. If people want to connect with you, learn more about your doula work or your doula education, how do they find you?
Thanks for asking. So there's 2 ways to connect with me. You can find me on Instagram as Tiny Tusks Doula, that's the name of my private practice. But more importantly, if anyone's curious about delving into doula work or receiving doula support, I work alongside Postpartum Health. I am their lead instructor for their doula training program, and I help support the doula team with them. So you can find us at www.postpartumhealth.com or Instagram and Facebook as Postpartum Health.
All right. Thank you, Giovanna. Thank you so much for your work in the community supporting families.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.